Hey friends, we are halfway through November. How's it been? When I first chose the oil of the month, Copaiba, I never had really any deep understanding of what this was going to unveil for me and what this meant. So, as a reminder, the Copaiba is the oil of unveiling. And so Copaiba invites those who have done something that causes guilt or shame to undergo appropriate remorse and then move on, remembering that forgiveness of the self is also necessary. If not dealt with, these lowest emotional vibrations will drive into an individual to rebel or overcompensate. Both are a product of running from their center of truth and existence. Acknowledging the reality of past choices and experiences allows individuals to grow and change in a more conscious and clear ways. So one thing I find really, really interesting, actually this just popped out, companion oils, so some oils that go along with Copaiba, the oil of unveiling, is heliochrysum, frankincense. Frank is the oil of truth. Black pepper, I'd have to look up. Forgive is the oil of forgiveness. HC clear and pink pepper. So one book that I, for the past week, have been drawn to is this. It is incredible. So I'm not a fast reader, which is totally fine. I'm at page 79 now. One thing that I had read, I'm just going to leave this in here. So on page 77, if you happen to have this book, The Body-Brain Connections, Pavlov, so if you know the study that Pavlov did with the dog and the bell, I think it was a bell. Yes. In 1904, he received the Nobel Prize for his work on the conditioned reflex, a phenomenon covered in the most introductory psychological course. Your mouth starts to water when you hear a dinner bell. So he did this with a dog. What he found, though, in some of his testing, Pavlov showed that after exposure to extreme stress, animals find a new internal equilibrium different than the previous organization of their internal housekeeping. Why did this stand out to me? We're in the theme of unveiling, right, with Copaiba. So there's multiple things that has come up for me in the past 2 weeks. I'm not going to go through it all, obviously, because it's personal and it's going to be different for every single person. The body keeps the score. It's the brain, the mind, and the body all working together to keep us humans living and in the healing of trauma. So when you don't deal with something, which is exactly what it said in the book here, if not dealt with, the lower vibrational energies and emotions, the more we push them down, the more they compact. Have you read the book, The Compound Effect? That's a good example. The more you push it down, the more you push it down, the more you push it down. It's not only going to take time then. So think of it in a way of butter is coming into my mind, right? When butter is hard, right? Push it down, push it down. It's hard. It is really hard to cut through, especially if frozen. So think of it in that way. When it's warm and it's in a liquid form, right? Like it's flowing. We want our energy to be flowing. When it's not, when it's solid, it's not as easy to perhaps deal with. It's not as easy to cook with, bake with at all times. Sometimes you need it liquid, sometimes you need it solid. So it's just a analogy, I guess, that's coming into my mind, that the more we push something down and the more it just compacts and compacts and compacts and compacts, it is going to take so much more time to release that. And the other thing is talking about, so not that long ago in this book, they had a picture of a brain. So sometimes when trauma happens to people and they totally numb out from what they've been doing or they're supposed to be doing, they know what they're supposed to be doing, they know what they're supposed to be using. And using, I mean, for example, myself, I remember the morning that we discovered our basement had flooded. I have a lot of tools in this house to use for not just like my husband has all the tools, we have a lot of tools at the shop to deal with the flooding part. But I'm talking about the emotional, the stress. I walked past my oil rack, I don't know how many times that day. And then finally at one point I stopped and I looked at it and said, holy shit, I need oils on me. And as soon as I did that, literally within 5-10 minutes, my level came from here to here. It was more manageable. There is times in our lives when we're going through major stressors that you're not going to think properly. You're not going to think straight. You're not going to make the right decisions. You're not going to want to do anything. You're not going to have motivation. And that's okay. That's totally okay. What I have found is this beautiful little oil, and there's not much smell to it at all. There's really not much smell to it. But this beautiful oil, so I've just been kind of putting it on whenever I think of it. I have a little bottle. This is my bottle that sits beside my bed. I have a roller out in the main, area of our house. I've got another bottle because I keep all of our bottles organized on that shelf. It's just bringing awareness. And that's exactly what it's doing, is it's unveiling things that I haven't been dealing with, or things that I was literally just skimming the surface of, right? It's just bringing that new depth. That's exactly what's happening. And with this new moon the other day, I did this new moon ritual, which was incredible, incredible. The songs were just trust that's one of the songs. It was about trust. And that kept coming through very clearly, very, very clearly. So instead, Copaiba teaches that the divine will reveal the higher message of one's life. So it's been an interesting 2 weeks. There's been a lot of twists and turns, but there's been even more growth. There's been a new balance. And the other little tip I'm going to leave with you today, I heard it yesterday. If there's something that keeps coming into your mind, it could be whatever. It could be related to your house. It could be your family. It could be just you personally. It could be your job. If it keeps coming into your mind, there's a reason it's coming into your mind. And I did this last night. There were some things that kept coming into my mind, so I would mark it down. And that evening, I did, because I knew I wasn't going to be at work for most of today. So last night, whatever it was, I wrote it down. And let me tell you, it felt so freaking good. So good to do those things. I felt more accomplished doing those things that kept coming into my mind than I would have just starting kind of blank. So if you think of something, write it down. I actually, I choose pen and paper over everything, but I do my main way of tracking our calendar, family calendar, email obviously is online. So our main calendar and stuff is online, but I do track a lot with paper. And so, yeah, I'm excited to follow these next 2 weeks and see what comes up as well. So I feel like it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot more to learn as well. Trusting. That's what keeps coming up big time, is trusting. Trusting the right move. Trusting my intuition. Trusting that when a thought comes into my mind, there's a reason. There's a reason. And even it may mean reaching out to someone, but there's a reason that thought's coming into your mind. So I hope this helped in some way. And if you need oils, I highly recommend, and click the link below and I'll get help for you and welcome you into my team.